It's easy to picture spy agencies as small, secretive outfits, right? Sort
Yeah.
of like in the movies.
Yeah, definitely.
But get this. Back in 1997, a defector claimed Russia's GRU. Their military intelligence had a foreign agent network 6 times larger than the SVR. The SVR took over foreign intelligence from the KGB.
6 times. Wow. That's
It
huge.
is. Okay, so you've shared some really compelling material on the GRU, the main directorate of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation. Quite a mouthful. Let's really dig into what makes this organization tick.
Absolutely. And what's particularly striking about the GRU, I think, is its sheer scale and reach. It often operates, well, more behind the scenes compared to other Russian intelligence agencies you might hear more about.
Right.
At its core, it's the foreign military intelligence arm, but it's crucial to remember they also control the Spetsnaz, their special forces,
Ah, yeah, the Spetsnaz.
which gives them this unique capacity for both intelligence gathering and, well, direct action.
And here's a key structural point that immediately stood out to me. Unlike the SVR or the FSB, which report directly to the president, the GRU answers to the military command, the Minister of Defense, and the Chief of the General Staff. That seems like a big difference.
It is. So our mission here really is to understand how this distinct chain of command shapes the GRU's history, its internal workings, and, the kind of global activities it undertakes.
Exactly.
Absolutely. That subordination to the military hierarchy likely means their priorities are often more directly tied to immediate military and strategic objectives.
Oh, that makes sense.
So if we think about Russia's overall approach to projecting power, the GRU's position within the military structure gives it a very specific and potentially more kinetic role compared to, say, purely civilian intelligence agencies.
Okay, let's go way back then. It seems the concept of Russian military intelligence has surprisingly deep roots. Our sources point to 1810, during the Napoleonic Wars,
Yeah, 1810.
when War Minister Barclay de Tolly proposed an expedition for secret affairs.
Expedition for Secret Affairs. Quite the name.
It morphed through names like Special Bureau and First Department before intelligence functions settled in the Second Department. And by 1906, a Fifth Department was the military intel hub. So it wasn't exactly a straight line to where they are today, was it?
Not at all. This early evolution really underscores a persistent need within the Russian state, for dedicated military intelligence capabilities.
Right.
What's fascinating is to see how these initial, perhaps more rudimentary efforts gradually formalized and became more integrated into the military apparatus over time, eventually leading to the GRU we know.
Okay, moving ahead to the Soviet era. We see the official birth of the GRU's direct ancestor on November 5th, 1918.
Right after the revolution.
Exactly. It was established as the registration agency, or Registraplini, of the Red Army. And that date, November 5th, is now a professional holiday in Russia for military intelligence.
Yeah, that detail hints at its lasting significance, doesn't it?
It does. Its first leader was Simon Erlov.
And that 1918 date is indeed significant. It comes, like you said, in the immediate aftermath of the Bolshevik Revolution and during a period of immense internal and external threats to the new Soviet state.
Sure.
A centralized military intelligence organization would have been, well, pretty essential for their survival and for projecting their nascent power.
The interwar period was a bit of a naming game, wasn't it?
Seems like it.
It was often called the Fourth Department, the Intelligence Service, Razveduk, or just RU, I sounds like. They were still finding their footing and their identity a bit. Do these constant name changes tell us anything, you think, about the internal dynamics?
Well, often shifts in terminology like that reflect more profound changes, maybe in organizational structure, operational focus, or even just the political winds blowing at the time. While the core mission of gathering and analyzing military intelligence likely remained consistent, these name changes could indicate periods of reorganization, maybe consolidation of power, or shifts in strategic priorities within the Soviet system.
Yeah, that makes sense. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. In 1926, this organization gained significant independence. It started reporting directly to the State Defense Council, bypassing the Red Army staff.
Wow, okay. That's a big jump in authority.
It is. And the first head of this more empowered Fourth Directorate was Jan Karlovich Berzin from 1924 to 1935. But a tragic figure, apparently. He was later caught up in Stalin's purges and executed.
Oof.
So that direct link to the top seems both powerful and well, precarious.
Exactly. That direct line to the highest levels of Soviet leadership underscores just how critical military intelligence was seen. But, like you said, the fate of Berzin chillingly illustrates. Operating in such a sensitive sphere during that era carried immense personal risk.
Yeah.
It really highlights the brutal realities of the Soviet political landscape and its impact on even the most crucial state functions.
There's also this intriguing, almost whispered about relationship with the KGB or the NKVD before it.
Ah, the distant neighbors.
Exactly. They were known as distant neighbors among Soviet diplomats, separate headquarters, separate reporting structures. Yet some veterans claimed operational subordination to the KGB. That's a curious contradiction.
It really is.
What does that tell us about the interplay between these, powerful agencies?
Well, the distant neighbors analogy really paints a picture of two distinct entities, right? Perhaps with their own spheres of influence, maybe even a degree of rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
But while formally separate, those claims of operational subordination in certain situations suggest a more complex reality on the ground. It's possible there were specific instances of cooperation or maybe even control, depending on the nature of the operation or the individuals involved. It definitely hints at a, well, fluid and sometimes ambiguous relationship within the broader Soviet intelligence community.
Then came a pivotal moment, February 1942. Height of the Nazi invasion. Joseph Stalin formally established the GRU in its current form.
Right in the thick of it.
Yeah. And by April 1943, its focus narrowed exclusively to foreign human intelligence. That seems like a very strategic shift during a critical period.
Absolutely. The formal creation of the GRU during such a crucial juncture in World War II underscores the pressing need for effective intelligence gathering beyond Soviet borders. Focusing solely on foreign human intelligence at that point suggests a strategic prioritization, really, understanding and countering external threats during a time of national survival.
The Cold War then became the GRU's real proving ground, didn't it?
Oh, definitely.
With a global network of legal agents under diplomatic cover and illegal agents operating in deep cover.
Right. The illegals program. Classic stuff.
And they also ran signals intelligence, intercepting electronic communication stations worldwide, like the one in Lourdes, Cuba.
Yep. Lourdes. Very famous.
They popped up in some surprising places, too, like back-channel talks during the Cuban Missile Crisis and even the Profumo scandal in the UK.
They certainly got around.
And apparently, they had a reputation for tougher training and closer ties to revolutionary and terrorist groups. That's a very different profile than perhaps the more publicly known KGB.
It is. The Cold War indeed saw a massive expansion of intelligence activities on all sides, and the GRU played a vital role for the Soviet Union, projecting influence, gathering critical information globally. Their emphasis on illegal operations and cultivating relationships with non-state actors gave them a distinct operational style, a different set of capabilities compared to the KGB's more, let's say, traditional focus.
What's fascinating is how incredibly secretive they were. Their existence wasn't really public knowledge in the Soviet era, only surfacing in defector memoirs, right?
Pretty much. Very low profile.
It was Viktor Suvorov's later writings that really brought them into the light. He even claimed that the general secretary needed security clearance to enter GRU headquarters.
That claim always amazed me. An almost unbelievable level of secrecy.
What were the advantages of operating with that degree of obscurity?
Well, obvious advantages in terms of operational security, I suppose, makes it far more difficult for adversaries to understand their structure, identify their operatives, penetrate their networks. It created an aura of mystery, maybe even fear.
Right.
But, such deep compartmentalization could also lead to internal communication challenges and, well, a lack of external oversight. Swings and roundabouts.
And unlike the KGB, which famously dissolved after the failed 1991 coup.
Right, a big shakeup.
The GRU maintained its operational and institutional continuity after the collapse of the USSR. It remained a key intelligence service in the new Russia. That speaks volumes, doesn't it? About its perceived effectiveness and its importance to the Russian state.
It really does.
Why do you think they managed to weather that storm relatively unscathed?
I think the GRU's direct subordination to the military command probably provided a degree of insulation from the political upheavals that led to the KGB's dissolution.
That makes sense.
Its focus on military intelligence, which remained a constant strategic priority, probably also contributed to its survival and continued relevance in the post-Soviet era, unlike the KGB's broader and maybe more politically charged mandate.
Okay, moving into the post-Soviet era, they got a significant upgrade, didn't they? A brand new, state-of-the-art headquarters on Khoroshovskoye Shasa. costing, what was this, 9.5 billion rubles.
Yeah, a pretty penny. That massive investment in new infrastructure really underscores the enduring importance the Russian state placed on the GRU and its capabilities in the changed geopolitical landscape post-Soviet Union. It signals a clear commitment.
There are also leadership changes and internal reforms. Valentin Korobelnikov was reportedly fired in 2009 for disagreeing with some of those reforms.
That happens in these organizations.
And the official name even shifted in 2010 to Main Directorate of the Russian General Staff, or GU. But as we noted, most people still just call it the GRU.
Yeah, that rebranding didn't quite stick, did it? Often, these official name changes in intelligence agencies are more about bureaucratic restructuring or adapting to new legal frameworks, rather than a fundamental shift in their core mission or identity.
True.
The continued public and probably even internal use of GRU just speaks to the strong established brand and recognition of the agency.
The 2008 Russo-Georgian War apparently led to some repercussions. Funding and personnel cuts reportedly due to intelligence failures regarding Georgia's air defenses.
It shows that even powerful organizations face scrutiny and consequences for significant operational shortcomings.
That's a critical point. It demonstrates a degree of accountability, perhaps, within the Russian system, where intelligence failures that have tangible military consequences can lead to internal reviews and adjustments. Resources, personnel, maybe strategy.
Right.
But despite that, they remained a major player. The annexation of Crimea in 2014, the ongoing intervention in eastern Ukraine that same year, and a relentless barrage of cyber warfare operations against the West, the U.S., France, Germany, all have strong links to the GRU. They've certainly been at the forefront of Russia's more assertive foreign policy.
Absolutely. These activities in the post-Soviet period clearly illustrate the GRU's continued adaptability and its crucial role as a key instrument for advancing Russia's strategic interests, both through, conventional espionage and through the increasingly important realm of cyber operations.
The tenure of Igor Sergin, from 2011 to 2016, was apparently seen as a successful period. His sudden death, though, did spark a lot of speculation.
Well, yeah, the unexpected death of a high-ranking intelligence official in any country inevitably leads to speculation, doesn't it?
True.
Given the sensitive nature of his work and the geopolitical events during his leadership, it's understandable that his passing generated considerable interest and, well, conjecture.
His successor, Igor Korobov, from 2016 to 2018, faced what many in the media described as a series of high-profile setbacks.
Yeah, that was a rough patch, seemingly.
The attempted coup in Montenegro, the Salisbury poisoning, several agent exposures. Interestingly, some analysts even floated the idea that this apparent sloppiness might be a form of psychological warfare.
That's a very unconventional theory.
Isn't it?
That theory, while unconventional, highlights the complexities of interpreting intelligence failures, I suppose. It raises the question, could seemingly amateurish actions sometimes be deliberate attempts? Maybe to sow confusion, project a certain image, or even distract from other more sophisticated operations.
Interesting angle.
It's just a reminder that in this world, things are rarely as straightforward as they might appear.
And then, in November 2018, coinciding with the agency's centennial, President Putin proposed officially restoring the name GRU.
Bring it back.
So they came full circle in terms of branding. What was the significance of that symbolic move, do you think?
Restoring the historical GRU name likely carried significant symbolic weight, reinforcing the agency's long history, its traditions, its identity, particularly on such a landmark anniversary. It could be seen as a way to bolster morale and reaffirm the agency's importance within the Russian security apparatus.
Okay, let's try and delve into how this organization is actually structured. Our sources from 1997 and 2020 offer some insights, though it's heavily emphasized that the real structure remains a closely guarded secret.
Which is hardly surprising.
Not at all. We know there are numerous directorates, departments, sections. What can we actually glean from what is publicly available?
Well, while the specifics are undoubtedly classified, the broad outlines we have access to give us a pretty good understanding of the GRU's key operational areas and priorities. The existence of numerous internal divisions just reflects the diverse and complex nature of modern military intelligence gathering and analysis.
We see key directorates focused on specific geographic regions: Europe, the Western Hemisphere, Asia, Africa, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Targeted intelligence collection.
Standard practice.
But then there are also mission-specific directorates covering areas like operational intelligence, electronic signals intelligence, SIGINT.
SIGINTs, yeah, the electronic eavesdropping. Crucial.
NATO, Spetsnaz, their special forces, military technology, military economy, strategic doctrine, information operations, and even space intelligence.
Wow.
That's a truly comprehensive portfolio. It shows they're involved in virtually every aspect of military power projection and national security.
Absolutely. That wide array of directorates underscores the multifaceted nature of contemporary military intelligence. It's not just about traditional spying anymore. It encompasses cutting-edge technological domains like cyber and space, as well as understanding economic and strategic trends. It's the whole package.
Their SIGINT capabilities appear particularly robust. They operate a substantial number of intelligence-gathering aircraft, a fleet of around 60 specialized vessels,
60. That's a lot of ships.
their own satellites, and a network of ground stations. They also reportedly collaborate closely with FAPSI, the Federal Agency of Government Communications and Information, with facilities spanning the globe, including within former Soviet states. That paints a picture of a massive electronic surveillance apparatus.
It really does. What's the strategic advantage of having such extensive SIGINT resources?
Well, having such a vast SIGINT infrastructure provides a significant strategic advantage in terms of situational awareness, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It allows for the collection of enormous amounts of electronic data, which can then be analyzed to gain insights into adversaries' communications, intentions, military capabilities, technological developments. You name it.
And the collaboration with an agency like FAPSI would just further enhance their reach and analytical capabilities, I imagine.
No doubt. More resources, more expertise.
Now, let's talk about some of the specific units that have gained notoriety. Unit 26165, famously known as Fancy Bear or APT-28.
Ah, Fancy Bear. We hear that name a lot.
APT stands for Advanced Persistent Threat, basically a sophisticated and long-term cyber attack operation.
Yeah.
They've been heavily implicated in cyber operations, hacking. The Netherlands accused them of attempting to hack the OPCW.
The chemical weapons watchdog.
Right. And a Dutch investigation linked them to the downing of MH17. These are very serious accusations with significant international repercussions.
Extremely serious. The activities attributed to Unit 26165 really highlight the increasingly critical role of cyber warfare in the modern intelligence landscape. Their alleged involvement in such high-profile and damaging incidents demonstrates the potential impact of state-sponsored cyber operations on international security, geopolitical stability, everything.
Then we have Unit 29155. This sounds like something straight out of a spy thriller.
Yeah, this one's got that reputation.
Reportedly tasked with foreign assassinations and covert activities aimed at destabilizing Europe. This unit has been operating secretly since at least 2008, but only came to public attention around 2019.
Relatively recently, then, in the public eye.
And they've been linked to a chilling list of events, from the annexation of Crimea
Okay.
to the poisoning of Emilian Grubev in Bulgaria, the attempted coup in Montenegro, the Sergei Skripal poisoning in the UK. They were even tracked to Switzerland during hacks on WADA and the OPCW.
Busy unit.
And they were also mentioned in connection with those unverified reports of a Russian bounty program in Afghanistan. This unit seems to represent the more lethal and clandestine side of the GRU.
I'd say so. Unit 29155 seems to embody the more traditional yet still highly dangerous aspects of intelligence work, the use of covert action, potentially lethal force to achieve strategic objectives. Their alleged involvement in a series of destabilizing events across Europe has, understandably, raised significant concerns among Western governments about Russian intentions and tactics.
We also have Unit 35555, described as a socio-psychological research laboratory that supports Wagner and other private military companies.
That's interesting, supporting PMCs.
Yeah, it suggests a deeper, perhaps less conventional level of engagement with these non-state actors. What does this kind of unit tell us about the GRU's broader strategy?
Well, the existence of such a unit indicates a recognition of the importance of the human and psychological dimensions of conflict, particularly in the context of using private military companies like Wagner.
Yeah.
It suggests an effort to understand and potentially manipulate the social and psychological factors influencing both the operatives themselves and the environments in which they operate. It's a different layer.
Unit 54777, or the 72nd Special Service Center, is identified as the GRU's primary psychological warfare capability.
Ah, the PSYOPs unit.
They utilize front organizations like Inforos and the Institute of the Russian Diaspora. Originating in the Soviet era, their initial focus was on disinformation in newly independent republics, but their remit expanded. targeting Russian expatriates, manipulating public opinion in support of Russian objectives in various conflicts. This seems like a sophisticated and persistent effort to shape narratives.
It certainly does. Unit 54777 highlights the growing significance of information warfare as a tool of statecraft. Their focus on shaping public opinion, both domestically and internationally, demonstrates the understanding that influencing perceptions and narratives can be as strategically important as conventional military operations, maybe even more so sometimes.
And finally, Unit 74445, known as the Sandworm Team, another prominent cyber attack group.
Sandworm, another name that pops up frequently.
They've used identities like DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0 to release stolen documents via WikiLeaks. They've been indicted in the U.S. for a wide range of attacks, including the devastating hack of Ukraine's power grid in 2015.
That was huge, caused blackouts.
The Macron email leaks during the 2017 French election, the NotPetya ransomware attack.
NotPetya was incredibly damaging globally.
The cyber attack on the 2018 Winter Olympics, attacks targeting investigators into the Skripal poisoning, and numerous cyber attacks against Georgia. This unit has a very disruptive and aggressive track record in the cyber domain.
Extremely. The extensive and damaging cyber activities attributed to Unit 74455 underscore the GRU's advanced capabilities in this domain and, frankly, their willingness to employ these capabilities for disruptive and strategic effect against a wide range of targets, from critical infrastructure to democratic processes.
Beyond these named units, there's the shadowy world of GRU illegals, spies, operating without any diplomatic cover, living under assumed identities in foreign countries.
The deep cover agents.
Apparently, they are playing an increasingly significant role in information warfare, too. It's the stuff of classic spy fiction, but very real.
Absolutely. The use of illegals is a long-established intelligence practice. It allows for deep infiltration, long-term operations within target countries, often focused on activities that would be far riskier or impossible for individuals operating under official cover.
Right.
Their reported increasing role in information warfare just suggests a strategic adaptation to the evolving nature of conflict and information.
And we can't forget the Spetsnaz GRU, the Special Forces, formed way back in 1949.
Long history there.
They were briefly under different command in 2010, but returned to GRU authority in 2013.
Back where they belong, presumably.
They've been heavily involved in key Russian military operations, including the annexation of Crimea and the ongoing war in the Donbas region of Ukraine. Interestingly, Unit 54777, the PSYOPs unit, even sent text messages to Ukrainian men during the Kerch Strait incident in 2018.
Wow, targeted PSYOPs via text.
And they also been deeply involved in the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. They are clearly a vital component of Russia's military capabilities.
Without a doubt. The Spetsnaz GRU represents the sharp end of the spear for the GRU, providing a highly trained, capable force for a wide range of special operations. Reconnaissance, sabotage, direct action, support for broader military objectives. Their involvement in numerous conflicts highlights their operational significance and their close integration with the GRU's intelligence gathering efforts.
GRU officers receive specialized training at several institutions. There's a Ministry of Defense Military Academy, the Cherpovets Higher Military School of Radio Electronics, and the A.F. Mozaisky Military Space Academy.
Quite the educational network.
It suggests a significant investment in developing the diverse skills needed for modern intelligence work, doesn't it?
It really does. These specialized institutions underscore the breadth of expertise required within the GRU, ranging from traditional espionage techniques and language skills to highly technical skills in areas like signals intelligence, cyber operations, even space-based intelligence gathering. It reflects a commitment to professionalizing their workforce across a multitude of disciplines.
Okay, now, to really grasp the GRU's global reach and impact, we need to look at some concrete examples of their activities around the world. And the list, based on our sources, is, well, it's extensive.
I can imagine.
In Austria, a retired colonel was suspected of spying for Russia for decades. Bulgaria saw suspected GRU involvement in the poisoning of Emelian Grebev, echoing the Skripal case. Canada caught a naval officer, Jeffrey Delisle, passing intelligence. The Czech Republic concluded the GRU was behind those devastating ammunition depot explosions in 2014.
The Verbitis explosions, yeah. Big deal there.
Estonia has been a hotbed of GRU recruitment of its citizens. Finland conducted a massive operation against a company suspected of being a GRU front for preparing infrastructure. France expelled a GRU operative and saw a fancy bare metal in their elections. A suspected GRU rear base was even discovered in the French Alps.
Wow, a rear base.
This pattern of activity seems widespread across Europe.
These examples paint a clear picture, don't they? Persistent and multifaceted intelligence operations across Europe. The incidents range from classic espionage and attempted assassinations to cyber interference and establishing clandestine support networks.
Exactly.
And the fact that similar tactics, even the same units, appear to be involved in different events across different countries suggests a coordinated and strategic approach.
The list just keeps going. We see GRU activity in Georgia during periods of tension, in Germany with a hack of the Bundestag.
Big cyber attack.
Even stretching back to Japan with espionage arrests in the 1980s and 2000s. Latvia, Lithuania, Mexico, the U.S. Northcom commander claimed a large portion of GRU members are there. Moldova, Montenegro, with the coup attempt. Hardly any region seems untouched.
The sheer geographical scope of these activities really underscores that the GRU isn't focused on a single region. It operates globally, adapting its tactics and targets to the specific geopolitical context of each nation. It highlights their commitment to gathering intelligence and exerting influence wherever Russia perceives its interests to be at stake.
The Netherlands has been particularly active in countering GRU efforts, arresting operatives trying to hack the OPCW.
Right, they caught them red-handed, essentially.
And even preventing an illegal from infiltrating the International Criminal Court. Norway suspects that GRU was behind the hacking of their parliament, the Storting. Poland has seen multiple expulsions and arrests related to GRU espionage, plus accusations of their involvement in bomb threat campaigns.
A lot going on in Poland.
Qatar convicted suspected GRU members in absentia for a high-profile assassination back in 2004. Even within Russia itself, GRU-controlled battalions were involved in the conflict in Chechnya. Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden. The reports of GRU activity just continue. It's a relentless pattern.
It really is. And these more recent incidents demonstrate the GRU's continued aggressive posture in the intelligence domain, a willingness to engage in higher-risk operations, including attempts to undermine international organizations and interfere in the internal affairs of other countries.
Moving further afield, Syria has hosted GRU listening posts and even GRU special forces on the ground. Turkey implicated Russia in the assassination of a Chechen commander, alleging GRU involvement. Ukraine, of course, has been a major focal point. Spetsnaz involvement in Crimea, the Donbass, the full-scale invasion in 2022, plus accusations of GRU hacking targeting Burisma.
Burisma, yeah, that came up in U.S. politics too.
And in the United Kingdom, the Scribal poisoning directly led to the naming of GRU officers Chepiga and Mishkin, or Bosharov and Petrov.
A very public outing.
Even the United States has imposed sanctions on the GRU for alleged election interference, indicted officers for hacking offenses like the DNC hack. There were even some unverified claims from a defector about pre-positioned nuclear weapons.
Lunev's claims, yeah. Highly debated.
And recent allegations of GRU personnel assisting Houthi attacks in Yemen. It's a truly global and, well, diverse portfolio of activities.
The sheer breadth and variety of these alleged and confirmed activities provide a stark illustration of the GRU's role as a central instrument of Russian foreign policy, and its readiness to operate in the gray zone, often blurring the lines between traditional intelligence gathering and acts of state-sponsored aggression or subversion.
Finally, just briefly looking at the list of directors of the GRU since 1991, it gives us a sense of the leadership across different Russian administrations. From Yeltsin through Putin and Medvedev, the current director is Admiral Igor Kostyakov. Understanding who is at the helm can sometimes offer insights into potential shifts in priorities and operational styles, can't it?
It can, yes. Tracking the leadership of an organization like the GRU can indeed provide valuable context for understanding potential changes in its strategic direction, its operational tempo, its relationship with the broader Russian state. The background and priorities of the director can often shape the agency's focus and activities.
So, to bring it all together then, this deep dive into the GRU reveals a long and complex history, evolving from the early days of Russian military intelligence to the massive and multifaceted organization we see today.
Quite a journey.
Its structure, while largely secret, clearly encompasses a wide array of specialized units handling everything from cyber warfare and assassinations to psychological operations and traditional espionage. And its extensive global activities, as evidenced by incidents in, well, dozens of countries, underscore its significance as a powerful tool of Russian foreign policy and intelligence gathering. It's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. We've seen how the GRU has adapted to the changing geopolitical landscape, embracing new technologies and tactics, while still maintaining its core capabilities in covert operations. Its close ties to the Russian military command and its, frankly, willingness to engage in high-risk activities make it a unique and influential player on the world stage.
And that brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. Considering the GRU's deep history and its very active engagement in global affairs today, what are the long-term implications? For international security, for the balance of power? What questions has this deep dive raised for you about the nature of intelligence gathering and covert operations in the 21st century? And how do we even begin to understand the full impact of an organization that operates so deeply in the shadows? It's definitely something to consider long after our deep dive concludes.